Hi everyone, Devorah Esther here. Some of you may remember a few years back I did this very controversial series called Adorned with Dignity. This series tackled head coverings, and we learned a lot about it. But what I learned most of all is the struggle that women had in this mitzvah. More particularly, the trouble and the struggles that Ashkenazi women had. Ironically, some of the best lectures and shiurs I've ever heard on this subject came from Ashkenazi women. And I must tell you that hearing things from their perspective made the most impact on me in performing this mitzvah. You see, I'm Sephardic, so people naturally assume, of course, you will cover your hair with a tzitzis. But when you're Ashkenazi, it seems that the accepted and the traditional way to do things is through wearing a sheitel. Now, while I support every woman on her journey doing this mitzvah, I especially support women who are struggling to perform this mitzvah in a way that they feel is best for them. I have been privileged to know many Ashkenazi women who do cover with a tzitzis, but one of them really tugs at my heart, and that is my best friend, Devorah. Devorah has gone now a few years wearing her tzitzis, and I have to tell you, it has not been without its challenges. But I want to share from a Rebbitzin who happens to be Ashkenazi. This shiur was given by Rebbitzin Kalmanovich in Muncie, New York, and I have to tell you, it truly is one of my favorite. I hope you will enjoy, especially all the Yiddish talk that goes on in this lecture. And I'd like to dedicate it to my best friend Devorah. I want you to know I am totally with you and I support you every step of the way. Know that you have been an incredible source of inspiration, not only to me, but I'm sure to many other women that you see on a daily basis.
Hey. Good evening. It's events from our voice of COVID, to come this evening and talk. I just thought that this is Tag a sehr große Sache. We're holding now at the end of Shovavim, and this is Mamish Parshas Truma this week. The Torah tells us we're also the mikdash v'shachanti b'soicham, and in the Sivir Shalom, in fact, it's 5 parshas in the Torah that are marich about the kelim in the Mishkan and the whole setup in the Mishkan. And the Mishkan was something that we had for a very short amount of time. We had 2 botei mikdash, and the measurements of the mizbeach and the mikdash were different than in the Mishkan. And nevertheless, we see that the Torah has 5 parshas when, if there's even a kefir loshen in the Torah, there's already explanations why this says like 2 words. And here there's 5 parshas talking about the inyan of the Mishkan. So the Sivir Shalom says that this comes to teach us that this wasn't just something that was for that time span, but this is something which is the Dovis. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says v'shachanti b'soicham, the kavana is b'soich kol echad ve'echad miYisrael. And therefore the Torah has it so many times and lets us know exactly what the setup was, since the Mishkan was really kedugmas tavnis ha'odam, and the emissaries that a person is called an olam koton, and everything that there was in the Mishkan comes to meramis on what there was in the world, and everything that there is in the person is merumas in the Mishkan. So even though right now we don't have that Mishkan, a person himself has to be a Mishkan for Ashros HaShechina. So the Torah tells us that there was the Chotzer, there was the Kodesh, and there was the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And we see, Mamish, that in the Dargis Ha'odam it's the same thing also. A person has his head, so this is Keneged the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Then the person has his guf, which is Keneged the Kodesh. This is where the Shulchan, the Mizbeach HaPnimi was, the menorah was there. It says, then afterwards is the lower part of the guf, which is Keneged the Chotzer. And this is where the Mizbeach HaChitzon was. And all of this is merumas in the tzura of the person. But more than anything, what do we see? That the head of a person, this is the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Why is the head of the person the Kodesh HaKadoshim? Because it says that the Mishkan of the Neshama is in the Moyach. And it says that just like the Orim was the place where the luchos and the shivrei luchos were munach. It says it's in a person's mind that is koivea, because whatever a yid thinks, whatever a yid says, all of this is mechuven kineged the kodesh hakodoshim de la'ela. It says every single machshava that a yid has, this goes straight up to the kodesh hakodoshim that there is lamala. So a yid, in his head, in his mind, he's mamash makash himself to the kodesh hakodoshim lamala. Now, if we take this into batracht, we have to realize how choshev the head of every single isha in Klal Yisrael, every bas Yisrael, and every single person in Klal Yisrael, how choshev the head is. So, a man has tefillin shel rosh, and a man goes with a yalma and kop. When he davens, he's misatif mit zayin talasi b'the kop. And there are so many reminders that are makasha the moyach evi. Vos hat Yiddish afori? What do we have that's makasha us to the Rabbeinu Shalom? It's our kisui harosh. So when we take this around in batracht, the first thing that we have to realize and understand is hakeser v'hakovod l'chayolom. The kisui rosh for Neshei Yisrael. This is mamish unsere kroin. This is mitzvos mezach misater. This is with what we crown ourselves. And Chazal tell us that the way a person is mekayim a mitzvah, this is the way the person is machabed the Rabbeinu Shalom. Shluchos shel Adam kemoisei. Our mitzvahs, our shlichim, are machabed the Eibishter. So there are certain mitzvahs that people look to b'tziyotze. But when a person looks to be mahader in a mitzvah, the Sfarim HaKadoshim tell us that every single hidur that a person takes in a mitzvah is mevatel gzeres rois. Now when we're talking about the head, which is the mishkan of the machshava, and according to the neshama, either it says makoim is either b'moyach or b'leiv, right? So here, where a person is carrying the Shechina b'soichoi. In the Mishkan, we know that there were the oiros, tchoshim, v'chulei. There were so many different coverings in the Mishkan itself because of the hashros hashchina. It says in the Beis Hamikdash l'moshel, if you would go in from one way, the same day you weren't allowed to go out the same way you came in. Why? Because if you're going to go out the same way you come in, you're going to lose the hashpah of the roshim of all the majesty that you see. So therefore, the way a person came in, he couldn't go out. He went out from a different schar. In the Mishkan itself, you see that there were so many coverings, because if a person would just look and get used to certain things, it would lose the hashpah. So in every dover shebekdusha, you see that there are coverings. Chazal even tell us, you look at the Talmud Chochem. It says, a Talmud Chochem's levush, there's it's talis the Rabbanon. He goes a longer levush than the Hamoin Ha'am goes. Why does he wear a longer levush than the Hamoin Ha'am? Because it says that Es Hashem lekecha tira, Rashi says, l'rabbis talmidei chachomim. Every S in the Torah comes l'rabbis to include, and when it says Es Hashem lekecha tira, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu you should fear, who is this including? Rashi says, l'rabbis talmidei chachomim. So since Talmidei Chachomim have hashros hashchina, therefore their levush is a longer levush. You see, tzaddikim, grois rebbes, you see how they're ongeton? Because there's more hashros hashchina, so they have to be ongeton andish. When a Yiddish Frau understands that she is carrying the responsibility of the zukünftige adheres in Klal Yisrael, was for amin hashros hashchina is there on her, so that ain't have in schar. The Nefesh HaChaim, is masbir, was das is a yid. He explains that the neshomas of Klal Yisrael stehen mei al hakisei. This is mamish musogim was it's lemala me hasogaseinu. His me can bechlal nicht verstehen was das means, like the madrega of kedusha of the kisei. This is already Iba alle zibin himlin v'chulei, and says that the neshamas that in ibedem, Nicht die Neshamas von alle, the Neshamas von alle Eden. It says because the Yiddish Neshama has such power, and the Rabbeinu Shalom, the main part of our Neshama is Lamala, says Me'al HaKisei, and every single part of the Neshama that we have, from the Nefesh, the Ruach, the Neshama, the Chai, the Yehuda, says that the highest point of the highest point, the marshal of the Nefesh, is the lowest point of the Ruach. And the highest point of the Ruach is the lowest point of the Neshama. Because this is the way the strict tzit, bis even, and just like if a person has a string, and you'll move it here on the bottom, if there's a string that's attached up there, when you move it on the bottom, so it's moving from on top also. It says, Klal Yisrael are called Chevel Nachlosoi. We are attached to the Rabbeinu Shalom, and we are Chevel, mizen dem strick, but is the Nachla, the Yerusha from the Eibishter. Whenever a Yid does down here, it moves things up there. So when a Yid down here is Makabel, a Hider and tznuis, a Yid down here is Makabel, Zach zu starken, to turn the rotzen from the Rabbeinu Shalom, we can't begin to imagine the hashpah that this has lamala. Because a lot of times a person thinks, okay, what's the big difference if I do it like this or if I do it like that? And on this, the Nefesh HaChaim says, a Yid should never ever think to himself, who am I? What am I? What difference does it make? Says, you should know that every single pu'ula, every drop that every person does makes such a tremendous roshim. When it's for good, you could be moving worlds. You could be saving adheres. It has such hashpah, we can't even begin to imagine, in all the upper spheres to the lower spheres. And if, chas v'sholom, a person is mizalzel, a person does less than what's expected, or a person cholil v'chas is actually oiven avera, because we can't imagine how devastating and how damaging this is. Now, there was once a very big asifa for tznuis, where they called up Shalom Shadron Zofen V'rocha that he should speak. And this asifa was really when the pirza came in, and people started wearing slits. And all the rabbanim who came, everyone talking, gewalt, like, how did we come to something like this, that a person is not ashamed, like mamash, like to walk out, and it's as though like you cut your skirt or something or whatever it is, and we gave him the slit. Like, how does a person do that? And what geschrien gewalt of them. Reb Shalom Shadron got up to speak, and he says, everyone shrein gewalt on these slits. He says, the shayla is not the slits. He says, how does it come that Neshei Yisrael should even think or even be able to put something like this on? He says, the makor of all of this is the fact that the kisui harosh is not the way it should be. He says, when the kisui harosh is not the way it should be, he says, the hashpah carries over to the entire guf, and before you turn around, people are dressed in the most inappropriate ways. Now, if we just stop for 1 second and we want to retract, if you just turn the clock back 15 years, would anybody have ever walked out with such tight tops like people walk out today? It's embarrassing to even talk about it. Think what people once didn't even put on von unten, Menschen gehen hein von even. It sounds like, what people used to call a slip, today everybody calls a slinky. What people used to call like an undershirt, today that's called a shell. Just gave it new names, and everyone gave that right, mit unterwäsche von even, and just named it a new name. But that's really what's happening. And then you ask yourself, like, how did we get to this? If you really think, I was reading like this Joshua from Shalom Shadron, I thought to myself, you know what? It is scary to think. Eric is shrieking, on the slits. But look what's going on today. All the the people once would have been so embarrassed. When we were growing up, like everybody's wearing like a vest on top, like was Mary, like their dick stuck. No one was looking like so zechusim stecken. And here, like, make it tighter, make it. It's like, sometimes like you walk into a dress shop, sometimes, oh, it's a little too loose. Loose? This is what you call loose? Like, it's like scary. Like, this is not loose, excuse me, But where's this coming from? If there is that real, like, chatzifas, that lange shapen, all kinds, all shapes, that it's so obvious that even those who were matir a pe'enochris, this was never the kavanah. I remember when I got married, there was no such a thing that from people walked around with human hair sheitlach. It was synthetic. Human hair sheitel, that was like, no. That's like, from someone who's coming from far away or something, and women would carve them, okay, so maybe, but anybody who grew up in an Erlicha house, they didn't even think of such a thing. It was mamish, it was a far-off musik. And then, just like 10 years passed, and Vayokum Dor Chodosh, even though it should take 20 years, but it didn't. And the next thing, first they started making the blends, and then the next thing was all human, and then it was European human, and then it was Indian human, and I don't know what else. And then it became clear that from all these sheitlach, there's such tifa shailas, and at that point, people began to wake up a bit that it's not so poshut what we got to. And if we retract, we see really that this was never a lavush that was acceptable. Because you look really, and you see that even the girls today, who are wearing like longer hair, the length of the hair also has become like so long that girls never walked around with such long hair unless it was close, unless girls wore like that. So they left it that way. But otherwise, I'm sorry, people don't hand back. I'm sorry. But otherwise, the emes is that it's scary to think for 1 second, like, what is really like going on here? I remember I had Talmidas in Beis Yaakov, they got married, and came to me after the chas, and they said, I don't understand. As long as I was a Talmida, before I got married, I always knew. My hair was tied back, and we knew that we can't go like past shoulder length, whatever. And now all of a sudden my husband's like, he wants a longer sheitel. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I thought to myself, like, really, what's going on here? Here, Ms. Machanach Meidlach Einteg, and all of a sudden you get married and it's a flaws in a whore. What happened here? And it didn't take long, and it just spread until this became acceptable. And then when you spoke that, that's an ish, like, certain people, well, that's the way they do it in this one's house, that's the way they do it in that one's house, and Ovar V'shona, Nasa Be'enof Geheter, and all of a sudden, that's what happened. So I'm not saying that there weren't Gedolim who were matir a pe'enochris. There were so many Gedolim who asid mikol v'kol, but there were those who gave a heter, but nobody ever gave the heter for what's going on today. That's very clear. Because what's going on today, if it's sheitel, if it's not sheitel, that kind of lavush is beyond all doubt not a tzniistic lavush. And when we talk about something like that, really, we have to go back to Yisoidistic Zachen. Even a girl whose hair is not erva, is she allowed to wear her hair the way a lot of the sheitlach look today? There's no question that not. And all the more so, if someone's wearing a sheitel like that, and people are not even makir that this is an Eishes Ish, so she's poshet machshel people. I was by a chasna letztens. There was a woman there, I mean, really, a tzniistic lady. An old woman's talking to her, and she says, so I think I have a perfect shidduch for you. And she looks at the lady, she says, oh, I'm sorry, I have 8 kids. They says, oh, really? I would never believe it. And this lady, she turns around, she says, I'm so embarrassed. She says, does my sheitel look natural? That someone could even ask me something like this? I thought to myself, you know what? This lady's really a tznuis. Because there's other people who would respond and said, oh, I'm so happy, that was the compliment of the night. But this lady didn't. She was really like, ois mensch. And then she was staying near where I was saying, she says to me, could you tell me the truth? Does my sheitel look too natural? I didn't really think it looked so natural. She says, that someone should be matzia shidduch to me. That's how young I look. So listen, you do happen to look young, but she says to me, tell me, what is it in my sheitel that made her think that it's my hair? And I look at the sheitel and I see there's a white part there. So I told her, there's a white part on the sheitel, so she probably thought that it was your scalp. She says, oy vey, she says, this is a new sheitel, and I didn't even realize. She says, the first minute I tried it on, I thought to myself, this is, and anyhow, I'm getting old, and no one's going to notice. She says, but that someone should think that this is actually my hair. She says, no, I'm going home right away, and I'm fixing that up. But how many people would have taken the compliment Like I've seen many times, oh, thank you so much. It looks so natural. Thank you. What's thank you? Be embarrassed. You're married. You're embarrassed to be married? Well, if you're embarrassed to be married, then you're really in trouble. And, it's not the shaitel that needs fixing. You better go to a good yidzol mispal zayin to zayin shalom bayis. But, the emes really is, why is a person embarrassed that they're married? You have to wear ponytails, you have to wear, like fashionable styles or whatever it is. Like, a person should realize that when you're married, make a hecker that it should be obvious that you're married. And, even went to the Chofetz Chaim, to Adam, reflect, what is the right way? And the Chofetz Chaim talked that at least tzedek in the shape, that it should be obvious that what a handelt is somebody who's married. But we see how many Gedolei Yisrael, how many Rabbonim, mamish left over tzavos, that by them in the house, nobody should ever put on a peyanochos. It's interesting how the Chassam Sofer left over in his tzavor, in such strong terms. He said like this, he says, peyanochos ani oisachem be'isu gomer. And he said, Hashem yamtziechem chen v'chesed chanino chemlo tigadu b'neichem tetzeichem tetzoytzeichem ala tov ala avodah. He left over in his tzavor and he told his children, he says, I asa meine adheres and isagomer, that they should not wear shetlach. He says, and you'll see, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you, he'll give you that chen, he'll give you all that graciousness, he'll grant you so much chemla and chanina. You'll be zeiche to be megadol adheres yishom v'yrochem. You see also, the Yavitz, he mamish, we're talking about the Chacham Tzri, he left over in his tzavor, he writes like this, he says, Va'atem b'ni yishmerechem tzurenu v'yatzilechem zari v'zere zari ad oilam hineni mitzava b'zalechem v'al deresechem acharechem choik oilam v'lo yavar bal yale al roshechem peyanochris. So this is Chacham Tzvi, the Yavitz. This is schar for the shoyness that he's saying. He's saying that mamish on his children, the doirei doiris, he's warning them, choik oilam v'lo yavar, that they should never put a sheitel on their head. And the emes really is, if you want to go through, there are so many poskim. We see that even the Minchas Eliezer from Munkach, he writes in the Sefer, he says how the Chassam Sofer was mazir his doiris and his daughters, that the doiris, they should not put on a peyanochris. And he's writing to children that they should just hear that these are the hasogas. And if you go through, you see even Shmuel Vosner's or Mannuel Stark, he writes like this. He writes a letter to Neshosh Yisrael, and he writes as follows. He says, Lachzor lilbosh kisui roish shaloi b'dei peyanochris. He says, go back to the olden ways, not to cover your hair with a sheitel. He says, look what Chassam Sofer wrote, and look what's written in the Shulchan Aruch. He says, go back to that old way, and take off the peyanochris, take it off, he says. It'll bring you so much bracha and so much hatzlocha. We see that Rabbi Shmuel, the Sor from Brisk, he writes with such stark lashonis how careful one should be to keep away. And he says like this, he says, Peah she'eno nikeres la kol shehi loy miseir vadei osor. This is what the Brisker wrote. This is Rabbi Shmuel Diskin, he says. A sheitel that is not recognizable to everybody, not just to the discerning eye, it has to be clear to everybody that this is a sheitel. He says, if it's not clear that this is not hair, he says, it's also. Now, he says, Befrat shehu chashash hirhor. He says that, he writes like this, the Rishus Harabim, he says, this is like upgefrekt, that a person shouldn't dare go in Rishus Harabim with such a kind of a sheitel, he says, because it's not poshut. You could bring people to really think that, oh, this girl, like she looks so nice, and people start thinking, about this girl, whatever, and it could really be machshel people. And the Sforim HaKadoshim tell us, when you are machshel somebody, you are also ditenes hadin. So Rabbi Yeshua Leib, he mamish writes, if it's einon nikoris lakol, if it's not recognizable to everybody, it's abgefrekt. It just is not shaykh. You see that Reb Shem Zalman Auerbach, he paskins also. He says that if it's not clear to everybody, that it's not, if it's not clear to everybody that this person is wearing a sheitel, if somebody could think that this person is wearing like real hair or something, he says, then it's a sheitel that is it's also it's not permissible to wear a sheitel. Now, we find also that it's not just that to her it has to be recognizable because she knows what her hair looks like and now she sees what the shape looks like. Not just not recognizable to her friends. It says everybody has to be able to recognize. It says lakol. And the Maral Diskin says, he says that when a person's over on marasayin, it's very, very chomer. You know that people should think that somebody is not covering the hair. It's really a terrible thing. You know, I want to tell you, a mother came to me with a student, and I didn't accept the girl, and the mother had a lot of agmas nefesh, and she calls up the principal from the elementary school, and she asked her, why didn't I accept the girl? And the principal calls me and says to me, she's such a nice girl, why don't you take her? I said, I'll be very honest with you. The mother came for an interview together with the daughter, and I said, I was mamish horrified. She's wearing this little, like spitz tichelel, like a from cop, and her whole hair was sticking out. I said, I can't take a kid. I said, Dor hazeh, basman hazeh, to take a kid into regular, like, Beisako for school with the mother, mamish gate, begili voice, I clean, schmatkele from cop. So, I'm all a good sight. And person put a doily on the head, and, these were the Yiske Yidden, was in Naranga comes over in Yiske. But, take a kid into regular school, like the mother. She said, what are you talking about? The mother covers her hair. I said, no, I'm telling you, I wasn't born yesterday. I'm telling you, so the mother came. And she calls up the mother, says the mother, like, what's up? She says, this is the way you came to an interview? The mother says, what are you talking about? This is my sheitel. I said, I'm sorry, this was not a sheitel. I said to this principal, do me a favor, tell her she should come to school tomorrow, the way she came to the interview to me, and you tell me if this looks like a sheitel or not. Anyhow, she comes the next day to school, and the principal tells her, this is a sheitel. She was like, and she says, yeah. And she starts telling her, yeah, I don't have money for a better one, so it's just this one. But it was so hard, and it's not like I don't know what a sheitel looks like, but I'm telling you, it was not to be believed that this was actually a sheitel. So this lady, she was like so hurt, and I told her, listen, the only way I'll take your daughter is that, you have to look different. I can't allow this. Okay, Sefer Shadova, she was machal, she'll look a little bit different, whatever it was, but it was so surprising to me that it really looked like it was hair. To such an extent I can't even describe it to you, because really, I see sheitlach all the time, and I see the ones that I can still tell you it's a sheitel, but this, it really did not look like a sheitel. It was it wasn't like so long, it was short, it really was, but it really and truly did not look like a sheitel. And on this, a person's really like, could you imagine that here I am, and I was chosh this lady, that she's going begili rosh. And if I was nichshel in being chosh b'kshavim, could you imagine if a man's walking down the street or something, for sure he would think that this is her hair. So how much worse is that? So many times people really do not realize the achrayus that they carry. And especially, like I said before, Neshois Yisrael carry the achrayus of the zukünftige adheres. And this achrayus is so great. You see, a person's Yiddishkeit is nikba according to the mother, not according to the father. And we know that the mother is the one who transmits the blood, and it says, Ki hadam hu hanefesh, she gives over the essence to her children. And if in her essence she is missing tznuis, she missed the boat. We see there are many people who will walk around and they'll say, okay, memach tazah groise esik, wegen kisuya roish, and wegen tznuis. Like, who's on red and a bissel mer from Shmiras Haloshen, from Shmiras Shabbos. There's so many things to talk about. Why is there such a big emphasis on this? But we have to realize, Al kol ever ve'ever shabora, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the woman, On every part of us that he created, the Eibusha said, Tehi Isha Tznua. And we see, it's not a simple thing. It says, Vayiven es hatzela, hisboinen mehechon levroisa. When it came time to create Chava, it says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was misboinen how a woman should be created, bechdei that she should be that Ezer Kenegdoi. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Adam HaRishon, he had the Malchei Morim, all the angels in heaven were there. Tzoyin lefon of Bosor, Moizgin lefon of Yair. They were busy grilling the meat for him. They were busy pouring the wine for him. He had every helper he needed. But he felt something was missing. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu waited that Adam should ask for a wife. And he did. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Chava. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Chava, the Torah tells us that Vayiven hisboinen mehechon levroisa. How should a woman be created that this should really be an Ezer Kenegdoi, and it should be a Hashlama in the Bria? And here it says that on every single part of the woman that was created, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Tehi Isha Tznua, again and again and again. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Adam, Adam was created Ofer min Hadama. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took the earth from different parts of the world, took water from different parts of the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu this oiske knoten, and then after HaKadosh Baruch Hu shaped it, formed it, and then Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chaim. And the Torah tells us that Vayivra Hashem Elikim es ha'odam. But by Chav it says Vayiven es hatzela, and Chazal tell us how Hashem Yisbarach on every part of Chava, Hashem Yisbarach told her on her eyes, on her ears, on her nose, on her mouth, on her head, on her hands, on her feet, on every part of her that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was creating, she got a special tzivui, Tehi Isha Tznua. This is really why the emphasis and the essence of a woman is her tznuis. There is no other area that will bring to shleimus for an Isha without tznuis. And if she is mashlim herself in this area, beside that Chazal tell us that she will be zoiche to bonim talmidei chachomim, to children who will be the most choshev in the door. She'll be zoiche to hashvos hashchina on herself and on her home. Because when an Isha is a tznu, it says that kishem shehamizbeach mechaperes, kachi mechaperes al anshe beiso. She brings the brocha into the house. She brings kapora into the house. She brings parnosa into the house. All this comes from tznius. Chazal tell us that when a person is tzanua, they are zoiche to Torah, to Gdula, to Melucha, to Kedusha. So much is totally in this. And this is really the essence of who we are. And this is what we have to transmit. And if chas v'sholem, there is a pagam in this area, then we are really in trouble. And we know that, they always say that when a fish smells, it smells from the head. It says that this is the first thing a person has to take care of, is a person's head and a person's mindset. And this is why everything really starts from the head. When the kisui haroish is the way it should be, it's unbelievable what hashpah this has. And this past year, in June, my school was renting in a building, and the guard in this building was somebody who was very, very frei. He was mamish like, he was weit from Yiddishkeit, he was an Israeli, and he was the guard in the building. When everything was happening in Gaza, every single day, he was so nispol from the nisim that were taking place and transpiring. One day I come, and I see this lady, and she's wearing like mamish like a gute shmatle from kop, but like her entire hair was covered, but don't ask what she looked like. And I say to the guard, like, there's somebody over there, I don't know if she really belongs there. He tells me, oh, it's my wife, it's fine. And I said, oh, that's your wife? I said, she covers her hair. He tells me, oh, she just started yesterday. I said, really? He tells me, I'll tell you the truth, he says. Every single day, we hear these tremendous miracles that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing for Klal Yisrael. And he says, you should know, the last 2-3 days, I'm telling my wife, I just feel Hashem is being so good to us and so kind to us. We can't just remain the same people. We really have to do something. And we were thinking, what could we do? And my wife says, you know what she says? I'm going to do what's the hardest thing for me. Because I never believed that, all these rackets and all these different things that are happening, she says, it's just so miraculous. Hashem is so good to us. He's so kind. He's watching over us in such a way. We can't remain the same people. She says, the hardest thing for me to do, she says, would be to cover my hair. And I'm going to do it. So her husband says, you sure you're up to it? She says, you know me, she says. I'm very stubborn. Once I decide to do something, it's all the way. She went, she says, she found the shmat in the house. She covered her hair, and that was it. And she told her husband, you're fine with it. You told me we have to do something, so there's no going back on this one. And that was it. Anyhow, what should I tell you? That was in June. I meet this further since I didn't recognize her. So she comes over to me. She says to me, oh, hello. You remember me? I said, tell me who you are. I really don't remember you. She says, no, you remember me. And she tells me what day, I saw and everything. And I look and I think, no, that's not that lady. And she talks a little bit more and she tells me, yeah, that's me. That is me. I said to her, wow, I tell her, this is amazing. She says to me, you know what it is? She says, once you cover your head, you just can't put whatever you want into your mouth either. And once you start watching what you're putting into your mouth, she says, you start thinking about what's coming out of your mouth. She says, and you just start behaving different. And you know what? When I put that on my head, I thought that's going to be like my gift, she says. But I realized that it was Hashem's gift to me. She says, that's another miracle. She says, amongst all the miracles that happen, no one's going to know to tell this miracle. But I'm telling you, you don't know how big this miracle is. She says, that I should cover my knees. She tells me, that was one thing I told everybody, never. My knees. And that I should wear a skirt all the time. It wasn't even like a... She says, I feel so proud of who I am today. I feel like such a different person. She says, but you know what the best part of this is? She says, I must tell you the truth. I wasn't having an easy time with my children. And all of a sudden they have such respect for me. She says, now I begin to understand. People always used to tell me, honor your parenthood. Because I never understood what that meant. She says, but all of a sudden I see that my kids are looking at me and they see that I've taken myself in hand and that I'm more of a disciplined person and that I am mishubah to the Rabbeinu Shalom. And all of a sudden, guess what? They're respecting me. She says, I tell you, around any of the chutzpah in my house I used to have, she says, this is such a miracle. She says, here I wanted to give a gift to the Rabbeinu Shalom. She says, but Hashem really gave me a gift. I thought, I'm giving up so much, she says. Well, what did I give? She says, I gave nothing. I gave away, my old life. I gave away my riches. But look what HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me. She says, I got more than double of what I gave. So often a person thinks to themselves, it's like such aggro. And sometimes b'shas ma'is it really is. And Sfarim HaKadoshim do tell us that when a person gives something up and they do it l'chvod yisbarach, you cannot imagine what a rishim this makes lamala and how much it is mashpiat mevatel gzeivos tois. The Gedolim Taka say when people give from themselves, and it's not an easy thing. Bisman hazeh, we don't have korbanos, but if a person could bring a korban, how happy would that person be? Unfortunately, we see that because sometimes we cannot be makriv from ourselves, like it says, Odom ki yakriv mikem. A person has to be able to give from himself. So sometimes, Rachman San, the Eibishter takes korbanos from us. And it's so painful. Wie viel korbanos tzibur did Klal Yisrael give in the last few years? Wie viel grace and mention were just like plucked away from us because we couldn't give up on certain basics that a Yid should find so easy to give up. And then Nebach, we have to give much bigger korbanos. So a Yid has to know that any time that a person stark sich in was for Inyan se is, and befrat by Noshim Klai by the Inyan from tznuis, we have to realize it is so choshev to be able to give up and to say, Rebbeinu Shalom, for your sake, for your kvoid shamayim, there is no sacrifice that is too big or too great, because the Eibishter is so big and so great. When we realize the gewaltige chasodim tovim that the Eibishter does for us geseder, we really have to live with ma'ashiv l'Hashem. But what happens is that very often there are hastoris that we create, and it's hard for a person to see with clarity because of everything that we block away from ourselves. And the first thing that blocks away clarity is tumah. Is there anything in the world that we need more than to have the Rebbeinu Shalom close to us? You know, when, by one of the big knesses, they had an upper gallery, and people said, okay, if there's a gallery upstairs, then in the Noshim there, that's good enough. And other people kind of don't make a curtain because people can look up. And people said, man, everyone's going to look up to look at the vibe, and you don't have to have a curtain. The gallery is good enough. It's good enough. Machitz and it's fine. So it was a lot of back and forth. So I'm going to go ask the Chofetz Chaim what the Chofetz Chaim says. The Chofetz Chaim said like this. He says, what is the most important thing to a Yid? And the Chofetz Chaim waited for an answer, and he says, tell me, what would be the most devastating thing for a Yid? So the most important thing for a Yid is Kirvas Elokim Li Toiv. The most devastating thing for a Yid is if the Rebbeinu Shalom turns away. His start upon Necho, Hayisin of Hol. If there's hest upon him, this is a pachad. Says anything that brings the Eibishter closer to us, that's the best that can be. Anything that takes the Shekhinah further away from us, that's the worst that can be. And what does the Torah tell us? Lo yireh b'cha ervas dova v'shov me'acharecha. Be careful. Don't bring to an ervas dova that should cause siluk hashchina. When a person is not careful, and it says sar b'isha erva, it's going to siluk hashchina. And when a person does what he should, and a person is extra careful, then this person brings the Shekhinah b'soichenu. What can be better than that? So should a person look to cut corners? No. A person has to look to be moisif. When it comes to mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim, we always want that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us, we should receive the maximum with bounty, with abundance, and we just want the best that there is. When we do, are we willing to do the same way that we want to get? Or very often when we do, we think to ourselves, okay, where can we cut the corners? We have to realize that cutting the corners is nishkei chochmah. If you want the bracha from the Rebbeinu Shalom, what are you doing to deserve that bracha? Hashem Yisbarach gives us unconditionally because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a Rebbeinu Shalom that's chofetz chesed hu. The Eibishter hot lieb chesed, and the Eibishter gibt uns bechesed. But there's a minimum. Like the Chodesh Halvova says in Shar V'Tzlakim, says there's a minimum that a person is mechuyev. He says, and what is that minimum? He says, at least, das was the Eibishter gibt for a mensch, take that and dien the Eibishter mit them. Don't use what the Eibishter gives you against the Borei Kol Olamim. So imagine, a person could sometimes take different items or different things, and instead of being Mekadosh Shem Shamayim, the person Rachmana Litzlan, he's going to Chil Shem Shamayim. You know, even sometimes a person that Hashem Yisbarach grants, like so much chen, instead of using that to be a mashpia l'toiv, the person looks to become very vain, and the person turns it into something that becomes very not becoming, and b'soifel shadover, this person is nepach ta'groisa bal gaiva, and nobody has anything from it. There's kabes Hashem mohinecha. A person has been mechaber the Rebbeinu Shalom from every single thing that one is granted, from the talents, from the looks, from whatever Hashem Yisbarach grants a person. Zayim mechaber the Rebbeinu Shalom. And a person has to articulate Keseder and thank the Eibishter for what the Eibishter gives us. And a person has to see that everything that we have from the Rebbeinu Shalom, even if sometimes it seems small, simple, recognize, realize that it's coming from the Borei Kol Olamim, and it is so choshev and so great. But this is so totally in a person's machshava. And if a person does things to block out the right mindset, the person can't think right. The person becomes locked into a world where he only sees himself and sees things in a very distorted way. And when a person just lets himself, give himself over a bissel for the covet for the Rebbeinu Shalom, and a person looks to do something more in tznuis, the whole mindset of a person becomes altogether different. Yeah, I saw some with this lady, I would have never believed. Just every day, they just felt they had to do something. Ma'ashiv Hashem. Von a kisu roish, zerstuvas is ibikert geworden, auf Chol Yisrael, und kashrus betachlis, and tznuis, marish in der adheres, andere Menschen ganzen. Anytime a person takes even like one area and really looks to excel in that area for Kvod Shemayim, the Eibishter gives the person so much siyata d'shmaya. And especially in an area today that we know is what the Yetzirah chapped on. One of the Gedolim, I think it was Reb Don Seger, but I'm not sure, who said, you see today how Hashem Yisborach gave the Noshim and Klal Yisrael a tremendous zechus. They are toimach in the Torah from their husbands. And if you look in all previous generations, when was there ever a door where there was so much limud haTorah, where people are sitting and learning, and the noshim are going out, and they're taking the ol haparnos on themselves, and they are doing so much to help that there should be Torah in Klal Yisrael. So the Satan, the Yetzirah, looks and he thinks to himself, Oive, kasher avalti avolti. Okay, I have to go attack the noshim. Once heard that the Rav Shor said that you see that in the army, there's always those groups that are given very, very dangerous pu'ules to do, but those are the most trustworthy and the most trained soldiers in the army. You can't just send anybody to do these dangerous missions. They have to be trained and they have to be extremely worked out, loyal and devoted, and very, very focused. He says, the fact that we see that in this door, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving the Noshim and Klal Yisrael the big nisayon of tznuis shows that we are the seals in the army of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu trusts us and he believes that we really can do it. And this is really where the Yetzirah is trying very hard, because he sees that women, they want to do what's right. The heart is so open. The Sfarim tell us, a man is created from Ofar min Hadoma. And so the avodah that a man has to reach heights is much more difficult. A man has to really contend with all tayag mitzvos. Noshim apturis from mitzvos asish as man groma. And the Mannuel says why? Is because through their shibud to their husbands and through their tremendous tafkid in the home, they reach the same tavlin that these mitzvahs asish as man groma bring for the man. So a woman doesn't have to be oisik in this, and she could still get to the same tachlis. A woman in her teva, she's close to the Rebbeinu Shalom. She was not created from offer. She was created from bone, which is already a higher place. So memela, a woman naturally tzit, very, very strong to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And you see Keseda, that women are so willing and want ruchnius, and they're ready to do anything for ruchnius. And where does the Yetzirah fall legzach? Dafka on the inyan from tznuis. Because this is the biggest nisayon. And we see it now by Achros Hayom. For many, many Dovis, he attacked different areas. And in the Chofetz Chaim's time, we see that the Chofetz Chaim writes so much about the inyan of being mechasa the roish, because the Yetzirah started over there because he realized that covering over the Cyrus, it says there's so much that is totally al chut ha-sayra. There's so much that just weighs on a hair's breadth. When, the Swarm tell us that schar, a gate, and sar are the same oisius. It's just where you turn that dot from the shin or the sin. It says that when a person's sar is covered properly, this is a schar, it's a gateway that keeps away the Yetzirah. But when a person's sar is not covered over properly, then the sha'orma opens and the Yetzirah gets in. And Zohar Kodesh tells us that when a woman is not careful with her kisui harosh, she brings aniyas l'toich habayis, she brings poverty to the home, and she brings a lot of other tzoros into the house. And when she is careful, you see that when a person does what's right, the schar is so great and is so big. And when somebody is encouraging in this area, there's no end. Even if somebody themselves is not up to it, or sometimes because of a situation that a person finds themselves, at this point, they cannot yet make this step. Nevertheless, the person does whatever they possibly can to encourage and to bring more tznuis and more kedusha into the home. It says, anyone who's nitpal lo'oisei mitzvah, that person also is uplifted in a tremendous, tremendous way. And it's interesting how this forum tell us how even sometimes when a person was faced with difficulty from their own bnei bayis, and therefore they didn't want to go and talk to other people about certain inyanim of kedusha or tznuis or whatever it was, the Sfarim say, don't look at that. In the zechus that you'll go and be mashpeh on others, the Rebbeinu will put in a ruach tahar and ruach kedusha. And some say, but you see, even her goes like this, like that, or whatever. No. Whatever a person does for k'fayit shemayim, the Eibishter helps, and eventually it is mashpeh. So even if a person at this point is being held back, just realize that this is really the ultimate, and it definitely is the best way for a person to cover their head. And the more a person is nisser in their hair covering, the more bracha they bring, the more kapora they bring, the more kedusha they bring, and the more gadlus they bring into the home. And really this is a woman's tafkid and a woman's tachlis, because so much really depends on her. Now, we see also that Rabbi Shmuel Diskin, he once wrote, he says like this, that the schar of a person who will be mashpia on somebody else to take off a pe'enochris, says, is something that ayin lo rasa, says it's undescribable, because it's not only for that woman herself, it's for everybody around, and the hashpah that it has from everybody who sees her, etc., etc. And it's brought down that when a person does things that are difficult in terms of tznuis, that person literally opens up a shefa of brocha lemala miderech hateva. It says a woman, through her effort to bring more tznuis into this world, literally brings a hanhoga nisis to this world. Like sometimes you think, like, so how is this going to happen? How can that happen? It says when women are makriv from themselves and do for tznuis, he brings mama from a curse, he says, they are mashpia, a ruach of a hanhoga nisis, just like it says when Klai Yisrael were in the Midbar, Hashem Yisbarach feared them with a hanhoga that was l'mal midei chateva, was a hanhoga nisis mamish. It says that even b'dor hazeh, b'zman hazeh, when people make that extra effort, they can bring such tremendous hashpah, and they can actually turn over, even if something was nigzar already, you can turn over gzeris rois, and brocha and hatzlocha can come just because one is turning themselves over to give for k'fayit shemayim. And there's no end to the amount of hashpah that we should realize there is from these things. Now, the emes really is that very often a person thinks to themselves, look, okay, there are certain matirim, and some people say, look, this is the mitzvos that I have, and this was the home that I was brought up in, and why do I have to do something different? Let me just go with whatever there is. So really, if you look in this form, you'll see that there are so many gedolei olam who, in the Gemara itself, there's the mention of the pe'anochos, but the kind of shetlach that we have today, there's really no mention of, because nobody would have ever imagined that Neshei Yisrael would be going, like long and open and tziflos. I mean, that was like, it wasn't part of the picture. That just had nothing to do with the lavush of a Yiddish tochter. But even like what the Gemara Taka tells us about going to the chotzer and then into Rishus Harabim, and how careful a person has to be when they go into Rishus Harabim, and even the Shaltei Boirim, that is the Iker Poisik, that people are soymechan to be matir for Sheitlach. So there are those who write mitoich his words that this was not his kavanah. His kavanah was just that in times gone by, when people would go to a chotzer, so the chotzer was not really considered the Rishus Harabim, so they would put on a pe'anochos. If they would go to Rishus Harabim, it's brought down that they would put on a tzaif. They would have like this shal that would cover over completely. And the whole reason why the person would put on this pe'anochos was just that it shouldn't look like there's like a head there that's in ganzen like bald. So therefore they put this on top of their head. But the kavanah was never to walk out in Rishus Harabim even with the pe'anochos. But b'cholifin, we find mamish that the Gedolim, like closer to us, like today, you see that the Stipler writes against the Sheitlach, and the Briskerov writes against the Sheitlach, and the Chazon Ish writes against the Sheitlach, and Shlomo Zalman Auerbach writes against the Sheitlach, and you see mamish that Rev Eliyahu wrote against the Sheitlach, and then Rev Wozen writes against the Sheitlach, and the Yehuda Lefkus writes against Sheitlach. You see, these are mamish like the Gedolim from our time, and the Chazon Ish writes against the Sheitlach. And if you look, mamish, like all the different Gdolei Chasidus, from Alexander to Amshinov to Bob and Biyan and Bi'ala and Bells, if you read different things that all these different Rebbes wrote about Sheitlach, you see how they are mamish misnagid to the Sheitlach from today in an oifen that's really not poshet at all. So our avodah is really tzi'iloch be'ikvei hatzoin. We have to look back and we have to see. Our avodah is to emulate the ways of the imahos. We're very, very close to the time of Hiskalus. And because we're so close to the time of Hiskalus, the Svarim tell us that when you see the tzoros tchufos u'bo'os, you see that there's tzoros that come like mamish one after the next, it says, know that the Geula is really very close. We're holding now in a Shemitah year, and Chazal tell us that b'matzoi Shvius ben Dovid bo, and there's a gerson Chazal say that b'Shvius ben Dovid bo. So we're so close to the Zman HaGeula, and we know that it's an eis lecheneno. It's a time already to get out of the skolos. Me'esocha tells us that already from the beginning of the year 5000, we should have already been zoiche to hoid, which is the finif midah, and it says that the Beis Hamikdash is called hoid. And he says, Nebuch of all these years that we're still sitting in Golus, and instead of Hoid is Alzeh Hoya Dover Libeinu. He says, instead of Hoid is Dover, and we have this anguish that we don't have the Beis Hamikdash. But we have to ask ourselves, what is Ma'akif? The Sultan is standing in the way with his mechsholos and tznuis. There isn't a bigger nisoyon today. Even the technology brings to all the pierces that there are today. It pulls down the entire level of tznuis in a shoydel cha'ifim. And you see how the Yetzirah is attacking on all fronts. Now, everybody knows that when there's nuclear warfare, you can't go and hold milchama with swords and spades the way they did in years gone by. When there's nuclear warfare, you have to fight this in a different way. The Melchemes Hayetzer today is very different. You don't know from where you're being attacked. You don't know from where it's coming. And it's in every single which way. Because it's very interesting. With all the new modern warfare and everything that there is, you still see. You have ISIS that are going with their knives and with their spades and with their swords and with their arrows and then whatever else it is, Hashem Yirachem. And when we look at this, it says everything that goes on in this world is really just a mashal to teach us the nimshal that we should come closer to Yirah Shamayim. So we look at this world, which is a very big mashal, and we see what's happening with all the fighting that's going around, with all the different warfare that there is, and we ask ourselves, what do we have in order to be able to protect ourselves? And the answer is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Klal Yisrael, when you are tznuim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Yoshev b'seiser elyon b'tzel shaka yisloina. Rabbi Ruchon of Dovid says, when a Yid sees to be matzniah himself, when a Yid is oiches and midas hatznias, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, mida keneged bina b'tzel shaka yisloina. Now, I will protect you. I will cover you over in my shadow, and a Yid is protected shaloi al p'derech hateva. The Maharil Diskin said that he has a Kabbalah, and Reb Nosson Wachweigel said over he had mamish Kabbalah Ishin Pi Ishin Tul Maharil Diskin said he has mamish Kabbalah, that when a Yid separates himself from all kinds of goyishkeit, the goyish look, the goyish eating styles, the goyish lavush, he says, a Yid, a halton in the Yiddish weg, he says, he has mamish a Kabbalah, that when there's going to come all different kinds of milchomas and all different kinds of tzoros in this world, he says, any Yid who holds himself b'kedusha b'tara, he's going to be on a different plateau and he's going to have special protection from the Rebbeinu Shalom. David says, Kedoshim to you, ki kodesh ani. V'skadashtim b'yisim kedoshim. Oda mekadosh atzmei ma'at milamato, makdish noisei habim milamala. A person just mekadosh himself a little bit down here, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the person such a chef of kedusha. What does the Eibishter want from us? The Eibishter wants from us that we should be mekadosh ourselves. We should matar ourselves. We should let go of all these extras, that this is not what the Eibishter will from uns als Yiddische Kinder. And every drop that we do, the roshim is so big, and it all starts with the head. And if we just understand and we just realize how much this changes our whole mohos, how much this changes our being, then Be'ezus Hashem, if we show the Rebbeinu Shalom, als Neshei Yisrael, that we want to wear our crown with pride, we want to be Makayim this mitzvah behidur, not if tziyot zayin, not that, okay, al pidin, this is acceptable, but we want is with a hidur. Then we'll be zoicha, v'yitnu l'cha kesem alucha. We will be able to crown the Eibishter, and the Eibishter waits that Klal Yisrael should crown. That the Eibishter gives us the meglachkeit, that we are able to crown the Bashefa, and that Neshei Yisrael could actually do this. It's no wonder that it says, "V'tismach b'nois Tzion, v'tagelno b'nois Yehuda man v'tach Hashem." That lo osid lovay, Moshe, Aaron, and the Skin are going to say, "Yehi chalkeinu imoim," because the Sforim tell us that the biggest nisyonis before Mashiach come are by Neshei Yisrael. The Yetzirah falleiktach by b'nois Yisrael, by Neshei Yisrael, and when the Geula comes, the first to be noitel schar are going to be the Noshim in Klal Yisrael, because b'schus Noshim tzidkoniyos asidin higoyel. And when we are noitel schar, it says Moshe, Aaron, and the Skenim stand and say, Yehi chalkeinu imoim, halavai we should be zeicha to their chelik. It's halavai we should be zeicha to be from those Noshim that Moshe, Aaron, and the Skenim should say Yehi chalkeinu imoim. But in order to reach that, we have to understand this takes an avodah. It really does. It takes an avodah of being mashpia on ourselves first, and also understanding the beauty that there is in doing the Eibishter's Ratzon, and not just being yoytze. If we understand that this is our crown and this is our glory, just imagine what a reishim this makes lamala. If we could just imagine that Hashem Yisbarach literally gives us in our hands, imagine there would be this goldsmith who has all these precious stones, and he is given over the tafkid to make the crown for the king. How proud is he that he is able to do this? How perfectly does he look to do the job? How much does he stand and look to make sure that every single drop is as perfect as can be? And Hashem Yisbarach is telling us, Neshei Yisrael, you are the ones who are making the crown. The way you crown yourself is the way you are moisif koyach lamala. This is moividik, that we have this koyach. And if chol bilavachas, we don't do what we're supposed to, think about how much we weaken. It's a pachat trachten. It's mamish a pachat trachten. And like we want all the bracha from the Eibishter in the full stamos, let us do with that full stamos. Let us do the maximum. If we do the maximum that we can, we just open up all those pipelines of shefa and bracha. The Eibishter should help, that we should always be that Yaakov Chevel Nachlosoi. We should be able to take that string down here, because like the Nefesh HaChaim says, the Ikar Neshama is Lamalo. The chelik that we have down here in ratio is like a nal to the guf. It's like a shoe on the guf ha'odam. Hashem Yisborach says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Shal na lecha me'al v'aglecha. Yisborach says, Moshe, you are kulei ruchni. You can have a spashus hagashmus and gansen. But we women, we're not mispashut from the gashmus and gansen. But with the gashmus that the Eibush gives us and that we work with, let us be mekadosh shem shemayim. Let's see with what HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us the opportunity to be able to do His rotzen, to be mekadosh shem shemayim ba'olam. And we have this opportunity and we can do it. And our avodah is just to do this with such simcha, knowing that we're mahader and that the Eibush has nachas ruach. The emes really is, this sefer thing came out probably about 10 years ago, where it has all the makoros of all the gedolim of today and yesteryear, who really paskin that the proper kisui harosh is with a mitpachas, is with a tichel. And like I said before, there are gedolim who amater, shetel, whatever, but the shetel from today definitely need a very big tikkun, and that's not what we're talking about. But when a person can and does look, like it says, the kesev ha'kovod l'chayim, when a person takes this mitzvah and does it with a full heart, and a person feels proud to do what they're doing, it says, this is shluchah shel adam kamoisei. This is the biggest kovod that we can give to Malka Shalom. I just want to finish with a maisa that took place in Tovshin Samach Beis. There was a very big pigua in front of Zvil. And there was a woman who, her husband, 3 of her children were very, very affected. And in this pigua, she lost one of her children. And her husband had all kinds of zechusim in his moyach. One of the children had like their lungs like zusammengeklebt. It was a very, very difficult matter, and she herself was unconscious for a while. When she regained her consciousness and she realized that she lost her son, she decided that she really has to do something very special, Le'ilu Nishmasi. Now on a bus, my sister was sitting, and she was sitting next to a woman, and there were 2 people sitting in front of them. And one says to the other, that's the aunt of that boy who was nifta. And the other lady says, no, it's the mother. She says, no, it can't be the mother. I hear the way she's talking. It's going back and forth. And finally the mother turns around and she says, yes, I am the mother of that boy who was unfortunately killed, a 3-year-old boy. So this lady says, I can't believe it. She says, I hear the way you're talking with such emunah, with such bitochen, with such starkheit. Like, where do you get that inner koyach from? This lady looks and she says, listen, I want to tell you something. She says, imagine, I have a daughter that's married several years, and Baruch Hashem, she davens, I daven, and endlach, Hashem Yisbarach helps, and she's gebencht mit a kind. There is something so special about this child, that there are so many tefillas that were cried out for this child, that you just see that there's a chen on this child that's not regular. She says, okay. The mother eventually has to go back to work, so she gives the child to the baba. This is an oisgebetne kind. She doesn't want to give it to any babysitter, just her mother should watch the child. And the mother is so makusha to this child, it's unbelievable. One day the daughter comes home, she wants to take her baby home, and the mother says, I must tell you, she says, this child gives me koyach. You know what? Take a vacation for a while, go home, leave the kid by me. And the daughter looks at the mother, and the first thing she thinks, this is my baby, I want to take it home. And the mother tells her, I'm serious. She says, I can't tell you. Ich gucke an dem Kind, the kid gives me koyach. Lass mich doch the Kind for a while. The daughter thinks to herself, listen, my mama, look how many years. Zach moise nefesh given for me. Anytime I ever needed anything, my mother was always there for me. Chutz from that, b'lein her, she was magadla, a very big family, and she probably knows how to be metapa with his child better than I know how to be metapa with a child. So you know what? If this is what my mother's asking me, she tells her mother, okay. She walks out of the house, and of course she misses her child, but she thinks to herself, Baruch Hashem, ich weiß, the Kind is in good hand. So she knows her mother knows how to take care of the child better than she knows how to take care of the child. She knows that she could really trust her mother wholeheartedly, and so she goes home. So this lady says, listen, let me tell you, she says, this child, she says, from the time he was born, he had a special chayim, and I saw he was really a special child. She says, I always think there's something so special about this child. She says, but all of a sudden, she says, this child was taken from me, and I realized that not only do I think the child was special, the Eibishter hat mir bewiesen that this is taka, a very special neshama. And now, where's this neshama? Mitachas lekisei hakoved. The Eibishter learned mit the Kind. Imagine, she says, the Eibishter, he's the kol yochel. He's taking care of the child better than I could ever take care of the child. So the mother says, am I human? Sure. Do I miss the child? Sure, I miss the child. But I know it's in better hands than my hands. It's in the hands from the Bashefa. She says, you can't imagine. She says, one day, she says, I was just thinking about this, and I just thought, I'm closer to you now than ever before. I feel such a hiskashrus. Mein Kind is bei euch in der Hand. Alle Kinder sind in der Eibishter's Kind, but I just feel a special closeness. She thought to herself, I have to do something special. And she thought and thought to herself, and these ladies were sitting on the bus, she starts giving out setlach. She made it tznuis gemach, that anybody who wants anything fixed, l'shem tznuis, she does b'chinam. This lady, she's telling the people, she says, I want you to know something. She says, I already have 2 people helping me, and I sit to the wee hours of the morning, sometimes till 2 or 3 o'clock at night, to finish all the tikkunim that the people should have it back on time. She says, and as I sit by the machine, I keep saying, Rebbeinu Shloim, I wish I'd be able to make you a keser malchus, but I'm such a simple lady. How can I make you a keser malchus? So if I can't make you a keser malchus, Rebbeinu Shloim, I'm sitting here and sewing begodim of tznius. Let this be malbushe malchus for your covered Rebbeinu Shloim. And this is the way she would sit and sew. And Hashem Yisbarach tells Neshei Yisrael, yes, you can make me the keser malchus. When your kisui roish is the way it should be, when your keser, when your atorah, when your tznif malucha is the way it should be, the Eibishter says, this is my keser malchus. And the Eibishter will take a helfen. We should be zeicha in the zechus von tznius, that bekorev, we should be machnia. And
if you've enjoyed this video or know someone who would, please share it. Tzikul mitzvot.